spinning, and we are live. And we are live without the great services of the bald one himself, Mike Molman, who did a con in Lexington, Kentucky this weekend and picked up a little bit of the con crud. So he is saving what little voice he has left for something later on this week, and hopefully he gets better. But we have with us two folks, so we still have three people with us. The Yarrows. You want to introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are?
Yeah, so go ladies first.
I'm Leanne. I'm the better half.
There you go. Yeah, I saw that coming.
This is John.
I'm John Yarrow. We are known as JL Yarrow, the authors of Future's Dark Past and now Future Unfolds.
And you're calling up from Texas today?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, whoever is here on the chat, as I am the lone person here today, feel free to leave a comment and chat it up and throw out your questions, and we'll get to them. So you've got two books out right now. I'm just going to call you JL rather than try to go back and forth. Sorry.
That's fine.
Sure.
All right. You've got two books out?
We do. We do.
They fantasy?
Another science fiction time travel.
Oh, okay. We'll get into the
Yeah.
time travel portion in a minute.
Yeah.
When did the first one come out?
2021.
Three
Three?
years ago.
23, yeah.
Okay, so
2023.
About this time of year. It's
Yeah.
in March.
Yeah, it was in March.
I guess I have to ask, what do you two do on a day to day? Not now that you're authors, but generally speaking, what pays the rent?
He's a geek.
I have a day job. I work for a company that does all sorts of outsourcing for cloud and applications like SAP and Oracle and things like that. So I'm in the alliance group. I help manage the our alliance with SAP, making sure we have everything we need for services and products and things like that.
So you're not the guy who says, "Have you tried turning it off and turning it on again?" You're somewhere further down the line than that.
No, I'm further down the line. I'm just in the relationship part that,
Okay.
you know, with the SAP, making sure that our teams have what they need from SAP and vice versa.
All right. And you, Leanne? I can't just say JL if I'm talking to one of you. That's very weird.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard that way, isn't it? I've done a lot of traveling and caregiving, I guess you would say, the last year or so. And then a lot of time working on book 3. So this is a trilogy that we have, and we're doing the final edits on that right now. So keeps you busy.
So you're married, yeah?
Yes.
How long have
Still.
you been married?
30 plus years. My wife likes to say we wrote a novel together and we're still married.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with that. I mean,
Yeah.
did you did you just get to a point one day where you said, "Well, Jesus, this might end in divorce anyway. Let's just write a book."
Yeah. No. So I've been writing a long time. And then we wrote 2 books, which I like to call my practice books. Someday I'm going to go back and revamp them into what I would consider a publishable level now. But after the second one, we started having kids, and I was a teacher and a coach at that time, and as I had to pick my battles, and so it was either be with the kids or write, and so I picked being with our kids, and I don't regret that for a second. I loved it. And then 3 kids later, they become teenagers, 2 go off to college, and when our son gets his driver's license, he's never home, and so we're not empty nesters, but there's a lot of free time, right?
Right, yeah.
So I started writing again. I started writing Future's Dark Past, which is our first book, and she was my devil's advocate, would help do minor editing, and she asked if I was any good, and so we entered a couple of contests and won. She goes, "I guess you are." So she started putting a little more effort in and started learning her craft and becoming more and more involved in doing, not just doing what I would say at the beginning was copy edit, which was grammar and punctuation, but start doing line edit, and then manuscript overview, helping craft what's going in, and then one day she came in and goes, "This scene's not right," and I just looked there and said, "Well, fix it," and she did, and so we've been teaming together ever since.
You jumped right over something.
Okay.
You entered a contest and won.
Yes.
You can't just do that. I mean, you got to give us more information than that.
Okay, so it was the Chanticleer Reviews Contest, which was they have categories. One was sci-fi, and so we were the grand prize winner in the sci-fi category, which is the Cygnus category. And that was in 2017. And then the other one was a second finalist in the Authors First contest, and then couple Book Fest contests. So everyone I entered, I was a finalist or second place or first place. So,
Which you should never ask anybody who loves to write if they're really good at that.
yeah.
It was my bad. And it was eating up our entire weekends, and after work he was in there writing.
Banging around.
Really into it. But he was writing long before I knew him. So this has kind of been a thread through all of our marriage. A lot of hours on the road going from here to there where we're cussing and discussing certain chapters or scenes. And it's been a lot of years of that. So
And actually, the contest, the Authors First contest, was by the Story Plant, which is Lou Aronica, who was Ray Bradbury's publisher, and he moved off to do his own boutique publishing company. And so we met him there, and he said, "Well, I would like to publish it, but it's a trilogy, so I want to see the second book before, because that's the hardest one to write." So I said, "Okay." So um, that took us a while because of some personal things going on in our lives and things like that with family, and so when we finally got around to it, we sent that, and then he said, "That's great, and I want to move forward with you guys." So that's how we became published.
So you're kind of traditionally or hybrid published?
Traditional.
Yeah, okay. There is
Yeah.
a story we don't get often on this show. Lots of people who try and try and try, uh, but very few. I think you're probably one or two who actually succeed going that route. So let's diverge a little bit then. How is that working out for you? Because in the indie space, the kind of common refrain, lament, whatever you want to call it, is that why do I want to go traditional when they want me to do all the same work I have to do as an indie, and then they want to take some of the money? So tell us why. Give us the other side of that coin.
Well, there's two pieces to it. One, we lose a well-known publisher and editor
an
and
author.
an author, and so having his coaching and mentorship has really helped us craft our writing, abilities. The second piece is they do provide a line editor and then a copy editor and then a covers and print edit and all those things. We don't pay for those anymore, right? And
Nice.
then they do the marketing and advertisement as well. So, you're still involved as far as, hey, I'm going to be doing these conferences, I'm doing stuff on social media to attract, attention. But really, once you kind of hand them the book, it's their baby to run with, and leaves you more time to, do what you do best is right.
Which is what everybody really says they want, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, how much time is there between the time you hand them your final draft of a manuscript and the time your book gets out there?
Oh gosh.
Varies.
It varies. Yeah. Um, because once you hand it to them, then they bring in a line editor, and that's a 2 to 3 month process going back and forth with the line editor, and professional line editors aren't very good at what we learned is called sandwiching, is where you say something nice and then you critique and then you say something nice at the end so you don't hurt the people's feelings. And you
Yeah.
just say, this
A
doesn't work,
compliment
this doesn't
sandwich.
work, you
Yeah.
gotta change this, you gotta do that,
Yeah.
So you have to kind of go back and forth. You have to have your adult pants on to deal with a line editor like that. So that takes 2 to 3 months. And then after that, it goes through a copy edit, which is where they really dive down into the line level for grammar and punctuation and spelling and making sure things make sense between one sentence and the next. And then once you're finished, and that takes another couple months. And then when you're done with that, then you do a print edit where you have to approve how it looks on the printed page, the format and what it looks. So what we wound up doing was printing the print edit. And one of the things we discovered when we did that is when you're looking at it on paper in a published format, you see mistakes a lot faster.
Yeah.
So we were really amazed at how much we caught doing that.
It's very
So
different.
that slowed us down, and that was a lesson learned. So now
What kind
we
of stuff
print it
are you catching
beforehand.
after all that?
Pardon me?
After all those editors went through it, what kind of stuff were you catching?
Oh, missing commas, missing words.
Sometimes when it's formatted, things jump or they change.
Oh, okay.
You'll find danglers. You'll find.
Sentence doesn't make sense.
Right. It sounds. I don't know how that happens. But
Is it ever? It's amazing what you miss on the screen that you see on a piece of paper.
Oh, well, I know.
So we go through that, and then that's final. And the first book, we also did an audio book along with that. So once we got through the print edit, it went to the audio book narrator, and that took another 6 weeks.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was a great experience.
That was a good experience to
Your
hear your
publisher
book read
picked
by
that
a
tab up as
professional.
well?
Yeah. Pardon me?
Your publisher picked that tab up as well?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that is awesome then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You guys
Yeah.
are, 5-10 grand ahead before you've sold a book.
We had a
Yeah.
terrific narrator too. He was great to work with, and it was a great process. Learned a lot. You have to really, it puts you in a different frame because when you write something, we're very visual about who's saying what or what an action is attributed to. But when you're hearing it, it's very different. So you have to really think about how you construct that sentence or that paragraph, which was an enlightening moment for us. So I think it helped strengthen the work overall.
And then with the second book, we had some family members who were really sick, that we had to take care of, and then we had some deaths. So that really slowed us down as far as what we're, getting out. And so it was a compressed time. So we had to put a lot more time into getting book 2 out. Book 3, we're finishing our edits and hope to have it to the publisher here in the next month or so, and then that'll take another 10 months to go through.
They target about a year in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our books are supposed to be published a year apart. We like I said, we had some personal issues that slowed us down for book 2, but now we're back in gear. And so the third book will be out 1 year after this book. So next March.
Now, we're almost 14 minutes in, and E.L. Montague has not, and I think he's just being nice because he knows I'm doing this here, and I can't be looking at the chat the whole time. I'm surprised he hasn't asked to see the book cover yet. Do you have a copy of your books with you that you can show the covers?
We do. Let me go get it. I forgot to bring it.
It's funny.
You talk to him, honey.
So when you guys write, I mean, you don't actually sit like that and write together. I'm assuming one of you like does it and then the other one goes. I mean, how do you split that up?
Yes, John is the sci-fi guy. That's not really the genre I enjoy. So that's been a real education for me as well. I've had to tune into that and learn a lot about just science fiction in general. But he is the big picture guy in all of this. So he'll come up with ideas, and we do a lot of hiking and walking and talking on the way. So he'll say, I'm playing with this idea, and then we'll start talking about this huge storyline. And he thinks so big. It's crazy. And all the little details he comes up with in this big story arc. And so then he'll just write that out. And then that comes to me. So I would call it rounds, what we do. So that'll come to me, and I'll just comment or question or ask him if he feels like he's accomplished what he was looking for. We do a lot of talking and thinking on that. I write copious notes on the side. Don't really redline at that point. It goes back to him. And in the meantime, he continues, going ahead with the story. And then we've started doing just using the alphabet. Just this is the A version, the B iteration, who's in charge of the C iteration. And then he'll tweak a thing or two, and it comes back to me, and then I'll start digging in with red lines or fleshing things out. Sometimes I'll add quite a bit to a chapter or take something out and put it someplace else. So
She helps organize a chapter. And sometimes I have the right data points. I just don't have them organized in the right flow.
I'm very in the weeds, more detail oriented and emotional, the emotional person, I guess, that tries to get what is that person going to react like, or where are they coming from when they think this. And so I'll try to drop that in. So I'm just very detail centered, and he is just this big picture guy. So our strengths are so opposite and different that it works. But it took us a while to figure that out.
Yeah. Was there a time where I don't know, maybe
Now
one of you
here's
in this room and can you hold that right up?
Wait,
There you
yeah.
go.
there you go. There's
That's the
book
first
one,
one.
Future's Dark Past.
Nice. Okay.
It's got a really nice boss cover. We're really excited about that. The paperback's coming out in real soon with the hardback of this one. This is Future Unfolds. And you can see that the books are very similar covers.
Right.
We wanted the same kind of theme. So
Yeah. All right.
Future
And you don't.
Unfolds is out on ebook right now. It's digital, and we're waiting for the hardbacks to come in. We have supply chain issues.
yeah,
Right.
our publisher wanted to do a soft launch to collect some reviews. So when the hardback came out, we had some momentum going.
Now, how good are they about advertising for you? Because that's always been kind of one of those points that people say, you know, unless you're getting an enormous um, advance, that the amount of marketing that a publisher is going to do for you is pretty negligible. But it sounds like these folks are actually throwing a little work your way.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons we went with him. The other piece is he's actually merging with another startup company that has a large capital investment, and they're going to do books, movie, TVs, and games based on the books that do well that are in their stable. So they're highly motivated for your books to do well. They have a large advertising budget. There's going to be some big announcements coming here in the next 4 to 6 weeks for the company as well. And so it'll be part of that. So we're pretty excited about that piece of it. And
Well,
they did, we did sign up for advances, and you want an advance because that incents them to actually market and do it. If you're not getting an advance, then they
right,
don't really they haven't lost as much as investment
right.
as
They
if
want
they
to get
have
their money
given you
back.
an advance.
So that segues nicely into EL's question. What's your line pitch? Your buy my book or buy my book pitch um, for your first one for the story itself, I guess.
I have two.
He likes to throw these out and get a
Yeah,
response.
let me pull it
Mine is
up.
a little different than
You,
his.
you go first.
I just think it's the one I would go with is that we've got a group of unexpected time travelers that go back into the past to try to change the world for a better future, to change events to make a better future. But he likes to get pretty involved with this.
Yeah, I can't find them.
You don't know this off the top of your head, Jay? Come on, man.
Oh man, you know, I had them at the top of my head, but if you're not saying them every day, which because we're not around a lot of people. All right, here it is. When super soldiers jump back in time to save mankind, an FBI agent is drawn into the dimensional battle. His AI technology may be their best defense or the inadvertent trigger.
Okay.
A little
So
more
this is,
excitement there.
what's that?
A little more excitement on that one.
So the other one, there's two main characters. There's Hunter, the FBI agent, and Kristen, who was from the future, who comes back to the past. Kristen knew she was dying on a dead planet. Little did she realize when she accepted a top secret program to escape Earth, the future's fate rested on her traveling to the distant dark past.
What made you get into like the time travel part of it? Because there's a lot of people when they hear time travel, their first instinct is, oh, time travel, right? Because you get all the kind of paradox things and the that's not the way time travel works, like anybody knows.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, I've always been so there was a TV show back in the 60s called The Time Tunnel. I
Take your
don't know
word
if you
for it.
knew that one where they built a time tunnel. It's a round, looks like a spiral, and you run into the back of the spiral and you disappear into time. And they were figuring out what they wanted to do to try and um, change World War II. And this crazy guy breaks in and goes back, and so the two main guys have to go chase him down to try and bring him back, and they keep jumping through these different time periods back in the past. I wanted to do something instead of in the past, more in the future that was more of a, I don't want to say a call to arms, but good, not all sci-fi, but a lot of sci-fi is like a warning, right?
Call to
Yeah.
action.
A call to action. So I wanted something to say, if we keep heading down this road, this is where we're going to wind up. And so I did it by saying, okay, we're there. And I send people back in time to try and change the past to stop the nuclear war that devastates the planet and wipes out 99.99% of the population. So I wanted something that did that. I also wanted a vehicle to highlight other things. Like in book one, we have the whale wars, which, dives into, slaughtering all of our whales in our oceans versus, what if we didn't do that? So there's things like that that I bring out in the book. And in book two, it's more about um, um, the economy of what we're doing as far as a country and our growth and the haves and have-nots, right? So I just wanted a vehicle to be able to do that, and but also be able to predict. Hindsight's 2020. So if we really knew what was going to happen, instead of hindsight, if the future was 2020, would we do something to change it?
Right. But that now you're already getting a paradox thought, right? So if people from a future that has been obliterated by nuclear war have
Yeah.
developed the technology to go back in time, they probably developed that technology as a result of being one of the few people left after a nuclear war. So if they go back and fix it so there isn't a nuclear war, they wouldn't have got around to that point where they could go back to fix it.
So that's a good point. What I had them do was discover a time wormhole that sends them back, allows them to go back in time. But what they want to do is what they really want to do is instead of um, having to go back in time, they want to change the course of time so that we don't wipe out the world. So you don't ever have to learn about time travel. You just can, fix what we're doing and move on as a society.
Did
So
you
you would
put
never know that
what
happened.
what are your rules? I mean, are you using Marty McFly rules or are you using your own rules that you made up for time travel?
Um, so I don't have rules like if you touch the same person, your person, you blow up or whatever, you distort the time dimension or things like that. I do delve into like the bootstrap paradox of, if this happened first or does this happen second, which one happens. There's a piece in the story where one of the characters goes back in time to give another person a coin that has a name on it. And of course, that person gives him the coin in the future. So it's which happened first, right? Did
Yeah.
the guy in the future give him the coin first, or did the guy give him the coin first? Um, so I have things like that just to play around with time travel, but I'm not super set in um, a super structure of time travel. It's just basically you're coming back. I do call it a like a neural net where
Time isn't.
time is a neural net where if you touch one strand, it impacts all the strands, right? And there's an original strand. So if what they're trying to do is impact the original strand, that changes everything back to where it was supposed to be.
So is time travel like a big part of it, or is it just kind of a token part that gets your people from A to B, and then most of the story is them in that place?
It's
Um,
both,
it's both.
right?
It starts out more in place, but as the novels go on, there's more because they've got to figure out a way to to stop the time travel and fix the timeline to where it gets back on a course corrects. What they discover is that the timeline kind of auto corrects itself, and so they're having a lot of problem fixing the timeline.
All right. Now you're forcing me to ask this question, and we'll start with uh, with the good lady wife.
Mm.
What time travel movies most influenced you or annoyed you when you watch them because of your work with these books?
I don't watch them that much. Um, my my part in this, I don't want to borrow too much. Do you know what I mean? Which I think
Sure,
you
yeah.
can subliminally borrow things. Um, I think my part is more knitting it together to be a good story. We both have teacher backgrounds, and I think that's just more my part of it. John does all of the sci-fi weaving and all of that. But the structure of a story, of a good story, is pretty apparent when you read it or when you read something that isn't. The character development it's pretty obvious if it's really tight and really good or if it isn't. So that's more my contribution to it. But that being said, I do write some of it. So yeah. But as far
I
as
think she's come a long way as far as learning sci-fi because at the beginning she said you can't just say space.
what does
No,
space
what
mean
does
to
space
me?
mean to people? You're gonna have to explain
Pretty
space. And it's like, honey,
Mm.
everybody in sci-fi understands what being spaced in space means.
I mean, I really did. It just wasn't in my
Yeah.
radar on my radar, And
Yeah.
I'm historical fiction and Nelson DeMille and Larry McMurtry. Give me a good solid thriller,
So
but there are a lot of thriller aspects in our work, which
yeah.
is
When
So
this
I have
trilogy is over, do you get to write something you want to write then?
say that again.
When this trilogy is finished, do you get to write something you want to write?
I've thought about it. I have actually a long time ago written a couple of children's books, and I've got some things I've been noodling around in my mind. But we already have some ideas for the next. I guess it's a trilogy. I don't know.
I think it'll be longer than a
It could
trilogy.
be a lot.
The next series.
Right, another series, and we've heard some interest in that, so probably we'll go into that. Yeah.
Now, with a publisher, and obviously you say you have to pitch him that idea. Do you have to plan out your books? I mean, is this a thing where you have to kind of map out the whole thing from beginning to end to be able to show them and say, I do have a clue what I'm doing here?
Right.
Yeah. So
in depth.
so I grew up as a panzer writer, and my publisher made me become a plotter because
And
he
are you
wanted to understand what the whole trilogy looked like. And so I have a high arc that I understand what I want to accomplish at a high level, and I really let characters drive what's going on in my mind and the scenes and moving the story forward. So I wrote out an outline for the entire series, especially since they were merging with this other company. Now we had to do a story Bible, which wasn't just an outline; it was all the settings, detailed character descriptions,
Their
their
history.
history, what makes them tick, those kind of things. Synopsis for each book, and then an outline for each book. So, but at the very end of the outline, I reserve the right to change any and all things based on character development.
nice? Did you
The
have all
character
that stuff
really
ready to go, or
leads
did you
you.
have to make all that up?
We've stayed close to it. Book two is pretty close. Book three, I've added a bunch of other stuff to it to really ramp it up. So, which I'm really pleased with. It really works well. But so I did rewrite the outline for book three because the publisher wanted to see it. He was a little concerned, and he wrote back that that was excellent and keep going. So, but that was
Yeah.
after we had like 3/4 of it done. So,
What kind of
yeah.
feedback would someone, like if I went to a publisher or something and said, here's my story idea, what kind of feedback, what kind of directions do they try to make you go, or are they pretty comfortable letting you get to your own end? I mean, what kind
He's
of things are
very
they
supportive.
looking,
He,
what kind of things are they
he's very
looking for?
supportive. But like with book one,
Right. We had to add.
he goes, okay, there's two things you need to do. One, you need more character development at the beginning of the book, and you need a Death Star ending at the end of the book.
Which I had to learn what that meant too.
You
So
what?
I added 4 chapters to the beginning of the book, and it actually changed who the main character was because we went back and forth. I said Hunter's the main character. She's like, no, Kristen's the main character.
It was clear it wasn't Hunter.
And then when I looked at the beginning, I said, I really need to develop Kristen's story because Hunter's is developed throughout the book. So I went back and wrote 4 chapters about Kristen. And she became the main character. And at the end of the book, we wrote we extended it out to a Death Star ending, which really turned out well. And I don't
What,
want
what,
to give a
what's a Death
spoiler
Star
for what
ending?
that is, but
I
pardon
don't need
me.
to know your ending, but when they say a Death Star ending, what are they getting at with that?
So like with Star Trek, you know how the movie Star Wars where they go in and blow up the Death Star.
Right.
It's a really big movie.
Yeah, really big moment. Saves everybody. So they wanted something like that that was really big. The very big
Was that very different than the
action
ending you
piece that
originally had?
solves the book and moves it forward, right?
Did that end up changing what you had before that?
Yeah, I mean it actually worked. So it wound up um, increasing the tension and the suspension to really build that climax to the point where it was in our opinions and the publisher had a much better payoff at the end.
He's a great coach.
Yeah.
He really works. He has a passion for working with his authors and helping you understand what's going to help deepen your work and make it more compelling. He doesn't tell you what to do. He'll just think about this and
Okay.
yeah,
It's
really
also going
great.
to be useful having two of you listen to that because like you I think you've alluded to before, you both kind of probably take away something different from
Different.
what he
Yeah.
says, and together you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
That's a lot of the walking talks, actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
his imagination is really remarkable. He's super creative with that and comes up with things that you just think, my God, there's no way all of this is going to work together, but it does. And you read it and you're just flabbergasted. And so my job is to help smooth that all together and weave. I'm a weaver, I guess. And yeah, I like having a creative project too. And I've done a fair share of writing in my background as well, more for professional reasons. But yeah, his creativity just is mind blowing. And the pace is so rapid fire and just, yeah,
How
it's
long?
fun. It's a
So
good read.
we get a lot of book talk reviews, and that's pretty much the bottom line. Everyone said how fast paced it is, how they couldn't put it down.
You see it like a
They
movie in
see it
your
like a
head.
movie in your head, and, you know, they can't wait for the next book. Those kind of things.
Where
So
is the book?
yeah,
People say I called in sick so I could read all day. You
That's
know,
awesome.
our kids even have, friends that our adult kids have friends that say they'll call them and they'll say, well, I got the book because it was your parents and I've known your parents forever. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they'll call them back and say, holy cow, had no idea that came from your folks.
Right.
So it's been an interesting response that we get. It's exciting.
So all
our
the
publisher. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
I was gonna say all the comments about seeing it like a movie in my head, that must play well with your publisher then if they're going to start going down those roads.
Yes.
We hope so.
Yeah, we're excited about that. Yeah.
Is there like an
So
opportunity for you on that path? Have they mentioned that to you? I know if they have, you probably can't say much about it, but
yes and yes.
all right.
So we're still under NDA because the company hasn't officially launched, which makes it difficult to, you know, say anything about that. But one of the other things about the creativity is that the publisher asked us to write something, a bridge novelette or novella to go between book and 1 and 2. And so we wrote one and sent it to him, and we met with him. He goes, "I did not see that coming." He goes, "That's actually a novel in itself, and it probably should be the beginning of your next series."
Which is what I kept saying
All right.
when we were working through that. It's like, this is something different. This is great, but it's different. So that was a little bit of a bird walk in between the first two books. Took some time
So
out and did that.
did they not print it as a novella then and just give it back to you to work separately?
Well, now it's going to be a novel, but we put it on the back burner because we had to finish book 3, but it's going to be the first book in the new series. It's going to be tentatively. I like the title of Five Known Worlds, and so that's the title of the series.
Okay.
So we'll go from there.
It's a big list.
But one of the things you asked was favorite time travel movies. So my
Oh
top
yeah.
3 would be the first one was Days of Future Past, the X-Men movie.
Okay.
And part of the reason I like it is because they stole my title. My original title was Days of Future Past. And
He was not happy about that, by
yeah.
the way.
Well, they didn't really steal it. They used it in the comic books back in the 90s.
Oh, okay. So
Hey,
see,
good
maybe
choice.
that's why I stole it from them. So and then the other one was Edge of Tomorrow with
Tom
um,
Cruise.
Tom Cruise, and then the other one's the latest one with Chris Pratt, and I can't remember the title. Where they come back from the future to get soldiers to go into the future to fight these aliens that are taking over the world.
I did see
Oh,
Edge
that,
of Tomorrow. And Back
Yeah.
to the Future. Who hasn't seen that one?
Yeah.
what about like Hot Tub Time Machine? That's a classic time travel film.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Well, yeah, I've seen
I
that
have not
one.
seen
I
that.
do like that one too.
Oh,
But more
come
from
on.
a how I write and what I'm writing.
No, you froze on me there a bit.
I said the Hot Tub. I love Hot Tub Magic Time Machine, but from the way I write, the other 3 are more closely suited to what I do, so I
Sure.
like
Oh
them
yeah, that
better.
makes sense. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
My time travel is involving historical fiction, I guess.
Well, that's a
Anne
pretty popular thing
Boleyn.
right now too, though, right? With
There you go.
what
There
is
you
that
go.
one where the woman goes back in time and somehow
Yeah,
magically, isn't treated like a woman going back in time? But
yeah.
I don't know the name of it. But
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name.
Lonesome Dove was one of
Yeah,
my favorites. Yeah, just
that's not
spirit. I
technical.
know
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's just
yeah.
it's history. It's like going back in time. So yeah. So do you write? I don't know this. I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. Most people don't. I do. Um, I write fantasy, and most of the people here, Mike Molman, who is not with us tonight, you met him just before. He also writes fantasy.
Mm.
I was going to ask you, do you get to go to like conventions or anywhere where you can sit behind a table and meet people and show them your books, or does your publisher not like you doing that?
No, we've done that. We've done a couple local ones in Dallas, Pecan and FenCon, and then last year we went to Richmond for RavenCon.
Mhm.
All right, how was that?
It's great. It was packed. It was a really nice conference.
I have never been to
We do
Ravencon.
Comic-Con
Yeah, we did Comic Con.
in California.
We've done Worldcon. Well,
Are you
we
going? Are
attended
you going to
Worldcon. We
Worldcon
weren't
this
We
year?
did get a
participating.
table, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to Worldcon this year up in Seattle?
Mhm.
No, no.
No.
We'll go to the next one. I think there is the next one in Kansas,
I think it's L.A.
LA. Okay. There's a
Kansas doesn't sound right.
there's another one in Kansas, in Kansas City. Not the Hugo Award, the other one, Nebula Award one.
Okay, yeah, it's a
I
little
can't
different.
remember the name of it, so I'd have to look it up.
Uh, so what do you find most difficult about writing? As I say, you're most of the authors we have on this program are fantasy, but we do get some people who dabble like Mike in sci-fi. What's the most difficult part of doing sci-fi well?
Well, so my first book was fantasy, and I think with fantasy, one of the things we met Barry Levins who did Ringworld at Worldcon, and he was on a panel, and this guy asked him, so when you write yourself into a technical corner, what do you do? And he goes, I'm a sci-fi writer. I make shit up, right? But you still have to make it believe plausible, right? Where
Right.
in fantasy, you can build your own construct of how you want your magic to work or how you want your world to be, and you can live by those rules. Where in science fiction, there's enough science fiction out there where you kind of have to stay within that confine of what's acceptable to sci-fi readers, right? So I think that being being true to what that is harder than just making up what you want it to be, in my opinion.
So what are the tropes that you find people absolutely must have in their sci-fi? What I mean, what is there if you don't give them, they're going to think less of the book?
I don't know if it's a trope, but it's if you write something that's unbelievable, and we have a really good friend, well, that we've known for a long time, James Wells, whose great grandfather was H.G. Wells. And James always gets mad because I butchered this because that's not exactly how he said it, but the meaning's right. He goes, in your story, you can have one unbelievable things and the readers will stay course. He said you can have two unbelievable things and they'll start to go, but they'll stay course. If you have three unbelievable things, they'll quit reading. And so I think, in sci-fi, you have to make sure it doesn't have to necessarily be hard science fiction, but it has to be plausible science fiction. Because if it's not plausible, then you're moving more into the realm of fantasy, and sci-fi readers will, pull back and stop reading unless they're so involved in the character that they keep going anyway.
Well, so much, I mean, in the last 50 years, right, science has and space exploration and what we know about space has expanded so much that
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are willing to kind of give you the benefit of the doubt on a lot of stuff now, right? I mean, because even scientists are like, we don't know what 95% of the universe is. Dark matter, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Exotic matter. Yeah. All
it's
those
like
things.
saying
Yeah.
magic. We have
Yeah.
a problem. Magic.
I think all stories boil down to, do they like your characters enough to follow them through whatever you're putting them through? Right? If 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 they don't find your character believable and they don't like your character, then the chances of them sticking with the story aren't as good as if they really do, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
and that's true with fantasy or
Any story.
thrillers or mystery or anything like that. You
They either have
know,
to really like them or absolutely loathe them
Mhm.
yeah,
because I mean, like uh, Game of Thrones, right? When Joffrey the Boy King,
yes,
people wanted nothing more than to see how that little chit was going to meet his untimely end, and they were
exactly.
thrilled when he
Yeah,
did, right?
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
um,
I think
so
you need, I think with sci-fi, you've got a crowd that if they're, if somebody is so hung up on every little detail being exactly the way it is in the world, then I don't, our work probably isn't going to be detailed enough for them, because some people love that. They get way down into the weeds and they want it to be exactly the way every scientific discovery has been and all of that. And I think we have a compelling story that's believable in within the story, but I don't get real hung up on the perfection of it. Does that make sense?
yeah, and I think that because you're going back in time, how far back does your character go to? Does it kind of go back to what we would call present day or further?
The furthest back we go is the Kennedy
Mm.
assassination.
Okay, so it's all things that people would recognize everything kind of going on there,
Yeah,
right? So it's a it's a
you have to do a lot of research.
that's a big shift from that to Star Wars, right? Where because
Yes,
I mean, when you look at the things that people are willing to believe and accept in science fiction, all right, why do you need wings on a spaceship, right? Why
yes,
people are avoiding laser blasts, two ships coming from opposite galaxies meet not only in the
yeah,
same place but on the same plane, right? That's a lot of that is just come on, unlikely to happen enormously. But people are okay with it. It's like, yeah, all right, fine. Because I know what an airplane is. So it looks like an airplane, that's fine. I mean, I think
yeah,
the best spaceship, science fiction spaceship ever is a Borg cube
yeah.
because
Mm.
it doesn't need anything else. Just make it a damn cube and be done with it.
Yeah, because there's no wind, right? There's
No, there's
no
no drag.
yeah.
Yeah, that works.
In our book three, we actually have some space battle, and I tried to stay true to, okay, if you're going 5,000 miles an hour, you're not turning on a dime, right? You got to
Right.
slow down to turn and have all those kind of things going on. So you get one pass, and then it'll be a half hour to an hour before you get another pass because you got to slow down without killing yourself and turn around and go back. So those kind of things.
Even the SR-71, the spy plane that
Yeah,
we retired back in 90, when that thing would land in California, it would start kind of making its turn in like Montana or some nonsense,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because it's going
yeah,
really, like you say, it's going really fast. It's going to need an acre or two, you know?
yeah.
Um, so because we do this on a lot of our shows, I will ask you, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trooper, Star Wars.
Star Trek or Star Trek?
Yeah, which
Is
do
that
you
what you
prefer,
said?
Trek or
Did you
Borg?
say Star Trek or Star Trooper?
Star Trek.
Star Wars.
Oh, Star Trek.
It's a little
I
hard
would.
to understand
Sorry,
sometimes.
Star Trek.
You
I
prefer
would say
Star
Star
Trek?
Trek.
I grew up on Star Trek.
Okay. Who
Star
is
Trek
your
was.
who is your least favorite Star Trek captain?
Uh, I loved them all. They were all really good.
No, they weren't.
If I had to pick one that was my least, and it's because I can't remember his name, was on what was that? was the one with the I can see his face, but
So I know Jean-Luc and I know Captain Kirk, and I like both of them.
and I
I
like
didn't even know
Janeway,
there were
but
more.
the bald gentleman who ran the Star Base, I can't remember his name.
Oh, Cisco.
Cisco, yeah, yeah. I guess he
Yeah.
would be my least favorite.
Really?
That was my least favorite
All
series.
right. You're done. Okay. And
You
I think your
pass.
wife had something more intelligent to say.
No.
Cisco was the best of the bunch.
Oh, you liked him the best? Okay.
Oh, I like him the most. Yeah, and I dislike
Okay.
Janeway immensely.
Oh.
But that's fine.
Well,
Okay.
my favorite would be Kirk and Picard. They had kind of a time, just for different reasons.
Sure.
Kirk led the nation into Star Trekdom, and then Picard just kind of picked the baton up and kept going.
He gave it a little bit more gravitas, though, I think. You
Yeah,
know,
You did.
yeah,
less kind of breaking of the Prime Directive and leaving little Kirks across the galaxy. You know.
that's true. That's true.
Kirklets.
Now
So,
I'm
who's
gonna ask.
your favorite fantasy author since you're a fantasy writer?
Oh, Tolkien.
Tolkien?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean I know it's a cop out answer, but yeah,
See, mine
absolutely.
would be Robert E. Howard.
What
He
he write?
wrote Conan the Barbarian series.
Oh my. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
his
I
visual.
considered my first memories of Conan was the big giant sized comic books.
Yes, that's how I got into it. And then I was in college, and some guy had a paperback book and it had Conan. I said, "Wait, there's books." So then I bought all the books and I read those. So those were great. And that's what propelled me into writing. I said, I could do that. He had such a way with words and visualization of what was going on that was just incredible for me.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of what gets you. I'm the same way with Tolkien, right? If I ever feel like I'm missing something, I just go back and read The Hobbit again and go, okay, this is very simple. It's,
Yeah,
but it's and they always say you can't write a linear story, right? But The Hobbit is just you can draw a straight line from Bag
yeah,
End to, Smog. And it's just
yeah.
travel, excitement, travel, excitement, travel, excitement. It's,
Yes,
you
that's how
know,
it was. Yeah.
but it works. So,
So what's your latest? One of the things I've actually had started doing because um, I had a contest on my book talk for all these books that were in my Kindle, and one of them was from a lady who asked me to download. It was a Glowing Hearts, which was a romantasy, and all of her fans came out of the woodwork voting for her. So I read a romantasy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then
Sorry.
and then I asked another author to be on because I thought she was a fantasy fiction writer, and she was actually romantasy too. And so I read one of her books, and then I said, okay, I'm in it. I'm going to really read one that's one of the top sellers. So I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarrow. So, and what I discovered is they're all really pretty good fantasy fiction books, but they just happen to put a lot of sex in them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing in the indie market. If you want to make money in indie, you write
Yeah,
spicy romance, and it's it. What I'm going to say is not meant to take away from the work that these authors do, right? But they are a
yeah,
little more, I think, and this is also me not having read any, but as I understand it, a little bit more cookie cutter, right? Because certain things have to happen along the way, or the readers get mad, right? If you're having a billionaire romance,
yeah,
certain things need to happen. If you're having a sweet romance, the kiss needs to take place at, at a certain point, and it can't be any more than that. So there's a lot more rules, I think, to that than there are to,
I agree with that. But I
yeah,
also think that the fantasy piece is really well developed, especially for the, the ones I read. That their fantasy worlds are really crafted well. Um, so what I do is when I get to one of those scenes that will blister my ear, I just skip ahead a couple pages and then keep going. You
you do
know,
that
so
with you do that with TV shows too. Just kind of hit fast forward for, watch the little thing and say, okay, yeah, that nonsense is done. Let's get back to the story.
um,
We study those. We
We
study
study
movies.
movies and
Yeah,
TV shows. Now,
Yeah.
dissect them.
if I'm watching a movie for like the fifth or sixth time, then I know I'll skip ahead to the pieces I like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably more it. The stuff that I've seen before. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love Ted Lasso, but when I rewatch it now, I will skip certain big, like the, have you seen Ted Lasso?
Well, yeah, we love Ted
Yeah.
Lasso.
So the part where Michelle comes to visit, skip. Right. I'll just
Yeah,
zoom over all that. It's
yeah,
like whatever. Um,
yeah. That was a great show.
Sure.
even the seventh or eighth time, it's still a pretty great show.
Mhm.
So the one I'm looking forward to that's coming back soon is The Last of Us. That has what's that guy's name?
Pedro,
Pedro. Oh,
Pedro something.
Pascal,
I can't remember.
Pedro Pascal.
It's a post-apocalyptic.
Pascal, right?
Yeah, Pascal. It's the post-apocalyptic one on HBO.
Oh,
Oh,
okay, okay.
yeah, it's a really good series, and it's starting here in a week, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then Wheel of Time's coming back too, which I'm. Now, are you a Wheel of Time fan?
I think I read the books a long time ago, and I was
Yeah,
okay with them. I've watched the thing on Netflix or whatever it is, and I'm okay with that as well. I know there are a lot of people who really don't like it,
yeah, because
but
they're diehard Wheel of Time fans.
yeah, well, or not, right? I mean, just like there's a lot of people
So,
who really don't like the Rings of Power,
uh,
right? And I'm kind of okay with that too. It's like,
yeah,
some Tolkien's better than no Tolkien, so that's fine.
there you go.
Unless it's the Hobbit
So,
movie, but don't get
yeah.
me started.
Hmm.
So, are you a Brandon Sanderson fan?
I've never read any of his work. Nope.
Really?
No.
Wow.
I am remarkably poorly read over the last 10 years.
Okay.
I'm ashamed to admit how few books I've read over the last few years, so I won't. But yeah, I've never read any Brandon Sanderson. But he's doing all right without my 30 bucks. He'll be okay.
He's
Yeah, yeah.
prolific,
He is
right?
prolific. Yeah,
Yeah, writes big old
I like
doorstopper
his
books.
classes
yeah. His classes are good.
on YouTube. He has some great world building and really good classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much to learn out there, and for those of us who aren't lucky enough, I guess, to have a publisher. I mean, a lot of these authors out there are having to learn all of the stuff, right?
It's
What
such a
Yeah.
makes it,
big machine. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Well, it's like anything. You just never stop
Overwhelming.
learning, right?
yeah. Hopefully, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
So, what's the name of your book you've written, published?
I have a 6 book series called the 30 Stone Saga. I'm 3 books into a 5 book series. Um, oh my God, I forgot the name of it because I've been working on
That's what
something
you
else.
do.
I know.
But
I do that too. I got
Yeah, we get to that age,
Vapor.
kind of
I
like,
got
oh no.
called
Yeah,
the thing, and I'm like, no, wait,
yeah.
it's like last year.
Ranger's Deck. It's a 5 book series called Ranger's Deck. And
Okay, cool.
I just finished my first draft of a totally new thing that I hope to have out by August. So
Okay, good.
Nice.
yeah, it's slowing down a little bit now. I was putting out about 2 a year for a while, and now I'm about one every 12 to 18 months. So that's
That's a lot.
That's
That's a
still
lot of
a
work.
lot of work. Yeah.
yeah. There's doing this show with Mike. We do this 2 to 4 times a week, something like that. So um, we stay busy.
I bet.
Very.
Yeah.
And right. And you have the creative side of it and the promotion side of it. They're so different,
Yeah.
and it
Well,
takes a lot for both.
I do the promotion side. I think, but like a lot of people, you can do one side well, but probably not both. But that's all right.
Mm.
Um, so your next, where can people find your books?
Mm.
So they're on Amazon. They're also on Barnes and Noble. They're
Great.
also in bookshop.org and Books a Million.
Everywhere. Mm.
And there's a
They
couple
still have
others I
Books a
can't
Million?
remember. Pardon me?
Books a Million still exists?
I think so, yeah.
Huh.
There's a website. Maybe I'm
Okay.
wrong. Maybe that's why the first book was on there.
I mean, it could.
The
Just
bookshop.org it's on for sure,
I
which
live
is
in a
nice, especially for
Independence.
independent bookstores because they're going to start selling ebooks. And when you buy your ebook, you can identify the bookstore that you go to, and 15% of the book sales will go to that independent bookstore
really.
from the
It's
Is
really
this
great.
yeah.
is this through Amazon?
No, that's through bookshop.org.
Okay, that's good to know. It doesn't sound like
Yeah.
Amazon.
No, Amazon wouldn't do that. They want their
Exactly.
money.
Okay, so I have to start looking into that a little bit. We'll talk about that because that sounds like a really good way to support a local bookshop without,
Exactly.
That's how we got
you
excited.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, now a lot of local bookshops will take your book on consignment or whatever, but by the
Mhm.
time you
Yeah.
get done buying it from Amazon, giving it to them, giving them their cut, if they sell it, it's like, okay, that was fun, you
Yeah.
know, but yeah. You want to hold up
We're going,
your first book one more time there? Real quick, you can hold them both up, that's fine.
yeah, this is Future's Dark Past. It's doing really well. We're still getting reviews even in the last couple of months, so that's good. It's selling. And then the ebook of Future Unfolds is out. The hardback will be out hopefully
Soon.
soon in
So that's
April.
really, we hope, yeah.
We're just waiting for the company to launch and then the book will launch.
And then your third one we expect when? 2026?
2026, March of 2026. And that's called Future Impact.
That sounds ominous.
Yes.
Blah, blah.
All right.
Pretty good trilogy.
Yeah.
Check it out.
And then we'll
It's fun.
in a couple of weeks we'll be up at Pajuli Joe's. They're having a big indie bookstore book
Book
fest. It's outside. Everyone pitches a tent. There'll be about 50, 60 authors there with their books, and so we're
It's fun.
excited to do that. It's up in Denton, Texas,
Nice.
March 15th.
Mm-mm.
No,
20.
22nd.
So before it
So,
gets too hot to go out and do things like that in
In
Texas.
March, it
Yeah.
can be a little cold still. It was a little bit last
Yeah.
year, but it's
What,
beautiful
60?
usually.
Yeah.
So,
A little
Pardon?
cold. You said a little cold. I said what, 60?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was, I think, 79 today.
Yeah. It was
Something like
79.
that.
Yeah.
Grief. All right.
Yeah.
So we got several Canadians right now listening, and they're probably not amused that.
They're not appreciating that at all. I know.
Sorry.
I grew up in Michigan, and the first time it snowed down here, my mom sent me off to school, and I got there and there was nobody there.
Right.
There was a half inch of snow on the ground. They closed school. I was like, "What the heck's
Oh
going
yeah,
on?"
yeah. I was in San Antonio back in like 2011, and there was just like a dusting, right? Just enough
Right.
so
Yeah,
you know it snowed, and they physically
yeah,
barricaded the highway so people
yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
get on the ring road around San Antonio, which was a really
Yeah.
smart move on their part.
yeah. Because nobody knows how to.
I don't know. Freak out.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I saw like 7 cars either on their side or nose into telephone poles on the service
yeah,
roads. It was
You get
funny.
that with a big rain, even you'll get that a little bit here. So
Yep, yeah, yeah. They all
yeah.
forget how
When I was a
physics work.
teenager, I'd get a bunch of my friends and we'd walk up and down the road because it had kind of a back man for $1. We'd push your car back up on the road for you. We made a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. I knew people like that when I was young. They have my cousin had a truck with a bunch of chains and straps and stuff, and on big snowstorms up in Vermont, he'd just go driving all the back roads looking for
Yeah,
people, and yeah, $20, I'll pull you out, and
there you go.
do that
back
all night.
roads those are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I
Oh, we
hope all
enjoyed
goes
it.
Yeah.
well
It's a good
with the NDA stuff that you can't talk about. And I hope you get to come back soon and tell us all the things you can't tell us now.
I would love to
And
do that.
Thank you. That'd
Oh,
be
we would
great.
love to do that.
We hope
that
Mike
would be
feels better.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
That's
that
no
would be
fun.
pretty exciting.
Yeah. You did a good job without him, by the way. You probably don't
Oh
need him
well, thank you very
anymore.
much.
You just fly solo.
You can hold
That's
your
right,
own.
Mike. You're fired, man. No, Mike does all
Yeah,
the back end stuff. I need him to, you know, to schedule
okay.
everybody and all that. I just show
Yeah,
up.
there
You
yeah.
guys must eat your Wheaties because
That's a lot of
3 or
work.
4 times a week's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
We used to
Oh,
do this. We would go out and interview people and tape it, and then kind of cut it together and edit it. And
Mhm.
that was a lot of work. This isn't
yeah.
that bad. This is just the time, right? It's not like
Yeah.
the time plus the more time plus the more time.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Well, Mike's on. He's saying great show, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
all
All
right,
right.
and if we can all wave awkwardly now, I guess, and we will
All
hit this
right.
magic
Take
button.
care. Thank you.
And thank you
Enjoyed
very
it.
much
Have a
for
good
joining
evening.
us, and everybody who
All right.
joined us,
Take care.
thank you, and we will see you. Let me tell you when we're going to see you again. Hold on one sec here. Guess I should have
Uh,
known this before we
I don't
before
think
we
we've set up a second one, so but we will.
No, you haven't, but 2 days from now, on the 13th, we will be with Ian Patterson.
With that. Okay.
There
So
you go.
join us at 7 o'clock for that. All right.
Okay.
Good deal.
Cheers,
All right.
All
everyone.
right.
See ya.
Bye bye.
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 You know.